Hi! In previous videos we saw how to create useful building blocks for ambient music with the electron model cycles. Today let's see how we can use polyrhythms and randomness to add a bit of diversity to an ambient music pattern. Polyrhythms is really just a fancy name for two or more rhythmic lines with a different base meter, or pattern length you could say. That gives us the possibility of having different tracks bump into each other at different times every time the pattern repeats. And the good news is that it's super easy to do on the electron model cycles. I'm starting here with a blank pattern, and the first thing I will do is to place some trigs on tracks 1 and 2, like so. And we hear that currently both tracks play with the default 16-step pattern length and they're in sync, so that's exactly what we want to change. To do so, I will press the function and page buttons to get to the scale setup menu. And the first thing I will do is to change the mode from pattern to track, so that tracks can have independent pattern length. If I now change the length of the pattern playing on track 2 from 16 to 15, I will hear tracks getting out of sync slightly. They will get back in sync when the least common multiple of steps is reached. So in this case it's 16 steps for track 1 times 15 steps for track 2, so 240 steps. As a side note, if I were to use all 6 tracks of the model cycles and have a pattern length of 59 steps for the first track, 60 for the second track, so on and so forth until 64 steps for track 6, it would take more than 2 billion steps before all the 6 tracks are in sync again, so the possibilities are really endless. Of course, with default kick and snare machines, it doesn't sound much like ambient music at the moment, but if I add an everlasting chord, as I showed in the first video of the series for instance, and I change track 1 and track 2 machines from kick to tone and snare to tone, and change some parameters, maybe the pitch of one of the tracks. It sounds more interesting already. The pattern on track 1 is still very straight, so I will change the trig keys a little bit and change the length of the pattern again. So I go again in Func and Page for the scale setup, and note that you can also change the pattern length by just pressing the trig key corresponding to the length you want. So for instance, if I want a length of 13 steps now, I can just press the 13th trig key. And that's it. The pattern is still playing a little fast to my taste, so it's a good occasion to explore the scale multiplier. So if we come back to the scale setup page, the scale multiplier is the third parameter, and it's basically a multiplying factor that is applied to the pattern speed. So if I change it to 1/4, the pattern will play now at 1/4 of its speed. But of course I need to do that per track, as the mode is per track. Another thing I always do is to reduce the tempo from the default 120 to the minimum usually of 30 to have elements collide even more rarely. Additionally, randomness and trig conditions are of course a great way to get a more generative pattern, and that's again very straightforward to do on the electron model cycle. So you can either set the track chance globally by turning the chance button, and then you can override that value per trig when holding the trig key down and turning the chance knob. So if here I have a track chance of 18%, I can override that value here and say I want that trig to always play, so I will put it at like 99% chance or something like that. There are like many different trig conditions you can do, and I won't cover them all in details, but feel free to go check out the user manual to know what the different options are. That's it for this simple video on adding some life to an ambient pattern. As usual, if you found the video useful, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you haven't watched the other videos of the series yet, go watch them, and until next time, stay healthy and make music.